I'm a financial coach. I've started out my path about a couple of months ago. It's really my calling. I'm originally a financial advisor, so I've gone through, a lot in my past, as you guys probably know, and we're going to get into it today. But essentially, I'm here to really give hope to men that are dealing with divorce.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Money Talk. I'm Johnny.
And I am Theresa. And today we have Mr. Milad with us. I encourage you to stay until the entire episode is over. We'll be discussing finances in divorce. He has wonderful information. He's a financial expert. He's a coach. And at the end of the video, we will be providing you with the information that you will need to be able to reach out to him for one-on-one coaching or any information other than that you may need. So, Mr. Milad, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me, Theresa. I appreciate it. So as you mentioned, I'm a financial coach. I've started out my path about a couple of months ago. It's really my calling. I'm originally a financial advisor, so I've gone through, a lot in my past, as you guys probably know, and we're going to get into it today. But essentially, I'm here to really give hope to men that are dealing with divorce, because honestly speaking, like, I've gone through it and it was one of the hardest, difficult path I've ever been through, like in terms of health, in terms of wealth, just in terms of relationship, just everything gets hindered on the fact that, when you're going through a divorce, it's really tough. And I put myself in other people's shoes on how difficult it is and how they're actually feeling going through this difficult process.
Wow. And I've done a lot of reading in my lifetime. And what I've learned about divorce is it honestly feels like a death, like you go through a grieving process as if you lost a loved one. Can you speak on that a little bit, like what the emotional effects that you had
Yeah,
during the
I'm
divorce?
sorry. I'm just gonna turn this thing off. I apologize. There's a noise in the background.
It's okay.
Okay.
I really apologize, Teresa.
It's perfectly fine. We want the listeners to be able to listen, so that's
There you
fine.
go. So go. So your question was?
What I've read is that divorce is like a death. And when you go through divorce, you go through a grieving process. So I have not experienced divorce, thank God.
Thank God, yeah.
But my parents were divorced, but I'm really was too young to really be that concerned about it. But can you explain to the audience some of the emotions that you felt while you were going through your divorce? Did it really feel like a death?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many emotions involved with divorce, right? So
Mm-hmm.
guilt, anger, frustration, sadness, depression. There's just so many involved. But I would say, everybody has their own story, divorce, of how they got divorced. Mine wasn't a pretty one. I mean, there's no divorce that's pretty, unfortunately, but it got to a point and stage where, we both grew in different paths and we were not compatible anymore. And I decided to leave the house. And I mean, there's just so many different emotions that you go through
Mm-hmm.
when you're dealing with it, especially a difficult divorce like mine. So, like I said, anger is the big one, and resentment is another, because you're always blaming somebody else. It's not, you don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's your fault. And that was the case with me, right? I mean, when people go through this type of situation, is that they tend to blame the other spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was doing. And I see a lot of men in my situation that are going through it as well. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, she's one to blame, she's one to blame. But at the end of the day, the guy is to blame. It's like he's the one who chose to be with that woman. Now, after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, you can't all of a sudden say, hey, it's all her fault and that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's like a relationship is something that they both need to work on. And, just to blame somebody else for the divorce is something completely wrong. So I see a lot of men going through that, and that's pretty much the same avenue I took. But the difference is that at a point I was honest and I had
Mm-hmm.
to face myself and say, you know what is the issue? What are the issues that caused this divorce? So I really had to sit down with myself, dissect every single situation, And the root cause at the end of the day was me. I was the one that, brought my marriage into a divorce. Every single thing that I did, the selfish reasons, so many different wrong things I was doing in a marriage. Like I was still a kid, kind of. I never grew up. And it had to take, the divorce had to take place in order for me to be honest with myself, start that growth. So like you said, Theresa, it is like a death. Somebody dies, and that person who I was died after that divorce, when I was really honest with myself and okay, like things need to change.
How long were you married?
I was married for I would say, trying to think right now. It's a good question. About 7 years.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. And
Wow.
how old were you? Because you said you were pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was young. I was it was during the time that my son was born. I was 27.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, that's
That's
not too young.
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how long have you been
Okay.
divorced?
You're too young.
Like we were separated at a point, but the final divorce documents, that was in 2024. I mean, wow, the time flies. It
Oh,
was
wow.
in 2022.
Okay.
Okay, so not too
Not too
long
long.
that you've been divorced.
Still kind of
Still,
fresh.
it's still fresh, but there was a period of separation as well. So that was like a year and a half of separation,
Mhm.
really court battles, fighting back and forth of custody. So it was a mess. It was a complete disaster after the separation. Fighting for the, how it is. It's like when there's kids involved, it's like it's a mess.
It
Yeah.
can get really ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that because with your mindset and your emotions and everything you're going through doing that process, that I'm sure it was very challenging for you and probably your ex-spouse as well, and the children too. But during that process, when you was going through the divorce, how did your mindset impact your finances? Because I'm sure it was an impact during that process. Could you speak a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So when I left, I mean, it was a burden on me, right? Because you're dealing with all these emotions. You still
Mhm.
have to work. You still have to provide for your kids. So you're not always there in terms of work. You have to find a new place. You have to buy new furniture. So
Yeah.
it took a really big hit on my finances. Like I got into some serious trouble in terms of credit card debts, in terms of tax debts. I've accumulated over 150,000 in debt. I got audited. It was really a mess. And how financial stress can take a toll on someone, right? Not only the divorce aspect, but imagine adding a financial stress component. And then obviously with the divorce and the financial stress comes health problems as well. So I was going through a period of depression. I was going through a period of anxiety attacks on a day-to-day basis. So I was in a complete hole, So imagine, being broke, imagine almost losing your kids, and imagine being clinically depressed, right? So getting out of that hole and that mindset that you're in was extremely difficult. So like I said, I had to be honest with myself and then start the process of rebuilding. And that
Okay, yeah.
process of rebuilding started out with cutting out everything that caused my pain, right? So I mean, I was dealing with some vices, I was dealing with some substance issues, so I had to completely stop all of it. Then I
Mhm.
started to train. That's the thing that got me back. It's really going back to the gym. Like
Mhm.
there's points in times where I would be up and I only had 2-3 hours where I would be able to function. After 2-3
Mhm.
hours, I'd be tired. So those times I would go outside, take a walk. So I would start with walking. Then I would try to go to a gym. But even going to the gym was very hard because the lights itself, like I would get anxiety attacks going to the gym. I would get anxiety attacks driving my car. I felt like my brain would shut off while I was driving. Like it was that scary. I thought of anxiety attacks from what is anxiety attacks? People are freaking out
Mhm.
over nothing. But when you actually experience it, a grown man of 230 pounds, like Getting anxiety attacks is a very scary thing, very scary. I was going to take medication, but I told myself that I'm going to try to fix this on my own. And I did. And I did slowly and surely to get myself out of this.
Okay. And so like during the time you mentioned all the debt you were in, like even the IRS debt. Can you tell the listeners what led to that? Was that because you had to go get another place, or did you have to cover some of your wife's expenses? What led to all of that?
So I had to get another place. I was also spending a lot of money on going out, right? So careless spending. It's like you're trying to avoid that emotion. So I was spending a lot. I was spending a lot on food. I was spending a lot on going out. I was spending just careless spending. And I got into that mess because I also had kids that were going into private school at that time. So it was very, very, very expensive. And I started adding on the bills. The next thing you know, you wake up, you're like, wow, they're about to, like, I remember the government about to garnish my wages. You know, that was a big wake up.
Wow.
Like I had to stop. Wow. Yeah, I had to wake up. Like I dug myself in such a hole. It's incredible. It's incredible to be in front of you guys right now and to have an amazing relationship with my ex-wife. And she's like across the street. And
wow.
yeah. And I have my kids right now. I have my kids actually, we're shared custody, shared custody. I have an amazing relationship with her. We literally live 2 minutes away from each other. I was with her actually yesterday. My girlfriend and her get along. It's like we're all getting along, And little no, 3 years ago, it was like a complete disaster.
Now that gave me goosebumps because that caught me by surprise, Milad, because like listening to the beginning of the story and how rough the divorce was, I never would have expected you to say that now y'all are friends.
Oh yeah, really good friends. Honestly, it's same here. I never thought in a million years would I be in a situation I am right now.
Well, and in my opinion, that's a blessing.
That's oh wow.
It's a huge blessing. So like, do you have to pay child support and alimony and all of that?
So no, I don't have to pay anything. I don't have to pay anything. She doesn't have to pay me anything. I was going to pay a lot. I was going to pay a lot in the beginning when we were going through that mess. Because when she served me papers after the separation, she wanted full custody of the kids. And that meant, obviously me paying a substantial amount of money. And that's when I decided to get a lawyer. That's when I really woke up too at that time. It's because I was in a point where I was going to lose my kids, and my kids meant everything to me. Like everything around me was crumbling down, The only thing I was holding on to were my kids. And when I got served those papers, I said, no, things need to change. And you know what? And I had all the odds against me to win. Every odd was against me, right? I left the house. I went downtown. I was so far away from the kids. I would see the kids 2-3 times a week. And then she served me those papers. I mean, what is the judge going to say? The judge is going to say, okay, you know what? No, this father was absent. Like, why should we give him 50% of the kids,
Right.
And at the time I had a lawyer and she looked at the document. She said, Milad, listen, you lost. It's done. Like I'm not going to fight for you,
Wow.
And that was like, wow. And then I remember one day I was sitting down at the house and I was going through, I was trying to search another lawyer because I'm not gonna take her answer. I'm like, I have to fight this. So then I had another lawyer, and honestly, I don't lie to you guys, God came down into my life. It's like, here's that lawyer. Like that small little hole, I was able to get in there with this lawyer. Like God sent me that lawyer and said, Milad, like this is your chance. Like this is it. Like I'm not giving you any other chance. Here's a lawyer. Here's your kids. Smart enough,
But you know what I like, Milad, that you recognize that it was God that gave you that opportunity to take that little small window that you had. You recognize that it was God that gave you that opportunity.
Absolutely. It's a miracle. It was God. God in His grace came down and
Amen.
and help me, you know. And recently I came into faith, you know, I came into Christianity about 3 months ago, you know. So that's another blessing that came into my life. And things are only getting better since, you know, since God is in the picture. And you know, looking back at everything, you know, God was in it for it all. Even for me in front of you guys right now, right? There's a purpose. I went through something in order for me to tell my story to others that are going through the same mess.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what? So so let's do this, because I'm sure there's some listeners out here that probably need to understand this particular aspect of it. We know that God opened that window for you. What are some of the pitfalls, financial pitfalls, that you would tell the listeners to try to look out for, try to avoid when you're going through a divorce, or when you're about to go through?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. There's so many. One is the emotional spending aspect, right? Is we're very emotional, especially during the divorce. So we have to be very cognizant of what we're spending our money on, right? And it's where the emotional spending gets us, you know? So it's like if you don't have a system to track that emotional spending and make sure that you recognize it, it could get completely out of hand. You know, it's really deal with a professional. You know, and unfortunately, you know, I've been in the industry for a long time, and I know many financial advisors, and nobody helps in that area. You know, financial advisors are there if you have money, you have 50,000, you have 100,000.
Yes.
Right? They're there to help you when you have money. But how about the people that don't have money?
That's right.
Yeah, you're right.
Where's the help with those, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
that's the thing, you know, and that's why you're here, you know, that's why I'm here, is really to educate your listeners on, you know, there is help out there, you know, and those are the people that need help the most, is where I was, you know, where maybe your listeners are, and they're drowning in debt, and they're feeling that pressure, and they don't know, you know, if something, you know, they're going to lose something. So that scarcity feeling is real. It's real.
So how did you recover financially after your divorce? Did it take you years?
It took me a long time. A lot of good things also happened in terms of my business. So you know, I really had to sit down, dissect everything. Like I mentioned, the emotional spending. I had to educate myself about taxes, right? So I was paying a lot of money in taxes. So I was really encompassing everything, and removed all the distractions from my life, going out, just wasting time doing nonsense. So really just focusing on my kids, my business, and my family. And that's all, and my health. And that was like all I focused every day, just improving and progressing every area, not just one. And then next thing you know, okay, we're gaining some momentum. So momentum is being built. Oh, we took care of this bill. Oh, we took care of that bill, you know. So it's really just I was improving every area and not looking at this huge debt, you know, because if you look at it at the big picture, it could be it could be lots of pressure, right? So it's really a lot of phone calls, making sure that, you know, no one's coming to garnish the wages, and working on my business, and working on my health and my mindset, right?
Yes.
Health and mindset is key, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Because if I'm in $150,000 in debt right now, if I were to be, I would deal with it a lot better, because I know what it takes to get through it, right? I had to go through that in order to know how to navigate through this type of mess. And the number one thing is your health. You need to be 100, because your health affects your mindset.
Right.
Right. So it's like sleep early, do not drink, do not smoke. You need to be the healthiest possible when you're tackling such a big burden.
Right. Okay. And so can you tell the listeners what type of business that you have?
So I'm in the financial. I'm a financial advisor in trade. So that's my business. So it's like my own business. I have my own clients, you know. So I manage people's investments. So that's what I do. That's my business. And now I'm going more into the coaching. So more into the fitness coaching. Like I got out of like such a bad position. Like I was 235 pounds, like
Wow.
loaded. Like if you guys go on my Instagram, you'll see the before and after picture. Like it's incredible the shape I got into after that. And now I want to teach other men on how to become the best physical self, you know, and I did it, and I'm 41. Like anybody at any age could get into the best shape possible. And there's no such thing as age. In my head, I thought it was age. I thought it was, it's all BS. So I got into the coaching. I got into the fitness because I was able to help myself. Now I want to help other men to do the same. And now I'm adding the money coaching compartment into it as well, because like I said, the worst thing is somebody that feels broke and feels out of shape. Like those two combinations are the worst for any man, right? And those men that feel it the most are the divorced. And those are the men that I'm trying to seek and I'm trying to help.
So you know, and I think this is key too, because when you said divorced men, I think some of the content that you're providing can help men and women. I believe it can, because it's like you provide so good of a content that I believe it can help either way, men or women. But
absolutely.
But when you actually started felt yourself getting through the traumatic signs of the divorce, and you found yourself starting to recover, right? And now you in the post-divorce stage. What are some steps would you provide to the listeners to secure your financial future post-divorce? Because you know that's one of the questions too, because I think that's probably one of the challenges that some people would face. How do you
absolutely? I mean, post-divorce, really discernment. Like, where are you spending your money on? Like, where your dollar goes is where your heart goes, right?
You're right, absolutely.
It's like, where is your money being spent? You know, and you have to stop. And you can't live those same patterns you did before. There's a reason why people get themselves into a certain type of mess. It's pattern and habits. And if you can identify what got you into that mess, I don't care how much money you receive, you will still get into that mess. So it's finding the root cause of what made you get into there and build system and processes in order to make sure you avoid it. And that's what I did. And my main teaching is based on emotional spending, like I said, is we need to be able to track what our emotional spending is, because that's where 99% of people get into trouble, is where and emotional spending is different for everyone, right? For certain people, it might be on shoes. Certain people, it might be on electronics. People tend to spend a lot on things that they love to spend on, right? I mean, if I love clothes, I'll probably overspend on clothes, but I won't be realistic. And if you ask me, guys, do I spend a lot of money on clothes? I'll tell you no. But in fact, I am, if you look at my transaction history. But that's human nature. We all say we don't, but we do. You know, it's like, and I know, and you know, speaking about money, sometimes it is taboo. People don't want to speak about their finances, you know, and that's also a challenge, is having that honest conversation with clients, you know, and telling them, listen, this is where your problem is, you know, and trying to find a solution, because I've dealt with people in money and I know what it is being in trouble, and it's the emotional component of money.
Okay, that's great. And then, Milad, we may have some listeners that may be listening and they are trying to figure out whether or not they are an emotional spender. Can you just explain to the listeners what your definition is of an emotional spender?
So we're all emotional, everyone, okay? So everybody's an emotional spender, because money, you know, the system that is put in place right now is what we call budget, right? Everybody's talking about budget. But in my opinion, budgets don't work, because budget is based on an economic theory that states that human beings make rational decisions about their money 100% of the time, right? But it's not the case. I'm sorry, money is emotional. We make emotional decisions about our money 100% of the time. So as I said, emotional spending, everybody is emotional spending. The key thing is finding out what your emotional spending is on, right? That's identifying that. And the only way to identify it, well, I mean, I can ask you, and I could just maybe look at your habits, right? And I could probably know where your emotional spending is. But the better solution is really doing an audit of your checking account, of your Visa, of all of that. Then you could find out where the emotional spending is, right?
Okay.
So like I said, some is clothes, some is. I always put food in the emotional spending.
Oh yes.
Food for everyone.
Right.
It's not, oh, I spend $200 a week on groceries. No, it's emotional spending. It's not recurring, right? Because certain weeks, oh, well, you know what? I want to spend more because I'm more hungry, but that's an emotional purchase.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I never looked at it that way. I don't even want to agree with you, but guess what? You're right.
Yeah.
If you
It
look
is
at
restaurants and groceries, it's all emotional.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll give you guys an example. Like when I walk into Costco, when people walk into Costco and they get out, they're like, oh my God, I spent $700. Well, guess what? They got you on the emotion. That was all emotional spending.
Yeah.
Why did you go in there and spend $700 and not know why you did it? Because that was all emotional.
You just happen to see a great sale. Oh, this is on sale. Let me buy it.
You are so right. And it's almost like Costco is designed for our emotions.
And that's one of the worst places to go. And I'll tell you, buying in bulk doesn't make sense, because let's say you spend about $500 a week. Okay. If you buy in bulk, next time you go in there, you'll still spend more money and may not use what you bought in bulk before. Right. So it's a trap. It's a trap.
Oh no, Milad. I'm sure a lot of our listeners, even me, I never thought about it that way. But you're correct. Costco is almost really a trap, and I'm guilty because I could plan to go in there for one thing, and I end up coming out with a shopping cart because I got involved in emotional spending.
Exactly. So what I tell my clients to do is, if it's really hard for them, is just do it online. It's easier, right? Instead of walking in there. Walking in there, you're done. It's like it's like, I don't care how strong your willpower is, but like it's hard. It's hard. You know, I feel it too. But once you're aware, then you have your power back. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna get food. Okay. And that's the key, is the awareness is massive, right? And then I have a system for my clients, you know. So if their emotional spending is, let's say I come to a certain number, I said, you're single, so you're only allowed $300. Okay. So I give him a $300 a week. That's all you're spending on your emotional spending. But I'll put it in a separate bank account. Okay. Not in your regular checking account. We're doing a separate bank account with a separate card. Okay, so it gives them the feeling of abundance too, because once they get that card, oh, the first thing we do, let's spend. That's what I want my clients to feel like. Like, I want them to feel like spending and not getting their checking account. Oh my God, I can't spend. It's like their money is going down, you know? I don't want them to have that scarcity feeling. I want them to have control over their emotional spending. So you have $300 a week on this card. These are your items that you're able to spend on. So this will allow to give them abundance. But number two, it will give them an opportunity to make better decisions on every item of that spending and say, okay, this is a priority in terms of maybe I should buy this, right? So it gives them more power in terms of what items they choose and what is more beneficial for them versus just spending money and not knowing where it went.
Okay, that makes sense. And then when you were married, did finances affect your marriage at all? Did that help contribute to your divorce?
Everything did. Everything contributed to the divorce, right? So she was the main income earner. I wasn't. She was 9 years older than me. So it was a gap for sure. Did it affect it? Yeah, 100%. 100% it affected the relationship, you know. It did. And it does for a lot of people, right? Where it's like finances are a main thing. And now in my relationship right now is I don't want to make it. So we're very open. So I have a system and my girlfriend's on board and with the system, right? It's like we know we're on the same page when it comes to finance, which is very important.
Very important. So can you educate the audience a little bit on, if you have, like, because you're our financial coach, if you have a couple and their main problem is their finances, like they can't agree, they're arguing, and it may be one spouse who might be the breadwinner and the other spouse is not. Can you give some advice to couples who are battling with their finances? Because we would like to help people not get a divorce over one of the number one causes, which is
Well,
financial.
number is everyone's situation is different, right? So there's not a cookie cutter approach for everybody, right?
Okay.
So the key thing is addressing, like knowing the awareness is the key. Number two is getting involved with a financial coach and assessing and finding tools that help the couple, and being with a financial coach that's honest, that's going to speak the truth, no matter if it's going to hurt your feelings.
Right.
Like, that's the key. I'm not going to tell clients what they want to hear. I'm going to tell clients what they need to do. And that's the difference between a coach and somebody that just wants to get paid because they want to be a yes person, right? To me, I don't care about losing a client. I care more about the truth and making sure they understand it. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, it's important for the couple to be on the same page in their finance.
Right.
Well, and you consider, if you all about the truth is going to set them free, right?
That's what always sets you free.
Absolutely. It always sets you free, right? So truth always win in the end. So Milad, so I know we was talking about the steps and stuff for different, to help couples with their finances if you're doing through the coach. So what are some steps if a couple is going through a divorce, and when you're talking about all the spending you had to go through when you actually was left the house and stuff, what are some steps to help them rebuild maybe their credit or their financial stability because of all that spending that they had to do during that divorce or even after the divorce?
So the credit is the main thing, right? So if they're getting themselves into credit card debts, they're missing payments, whatever the case is addressing the credit, addressing the income and expense, and paying down the credit, right? And knowing what your credit score is, right? I mean, if you know your numbers, then you could start to better improve your situation, right? And to the people that are going through a divorce, it's fine. I mean, your credit score being affected, lenders understand it, right? Okay. Lenders understand it. If you're going to get a mortgage and they know that in the last couple of years you went through a divorce, and if they look at your credit history, they see missed payments the year that you were divorced, they'll be lenient. They'll be okay with it as long as you could explain it. So it's normal. And even the banks know that it's normal to have credit problems during a divorce, right? But it's finding the solutions to get out of it. And the number one thing is addressing the credit card debt and the spending. Spending is the key.
Okay.
Because if you don't overspend, you won't get into it.
Right. That's right. And I guess during that time, it would be a challenge not to overspend. And so now that we're talking about that, can you just share with the audience what your feelings are about debt?
Debt is death.
Can you say that again? You need to say it again so they can hear you.
Debt is death. That's what it is. They said, I don't know in which, in the Bible it said it. I don't know what I'm trying to remember the passage, but I forget. You're a slave to your lender, right?
Oh, yes. The borrower is servant or slave. The
borrower, servant to the, and I truly believe in that. I truly believe in that, because the thing is, once you have so much debt, car debt, credit card debt, you're making all these payments, right? You're a slave to these payments. And then let's say you have a job and your boss treats you like crap, and you can't talk back to your boss. You can't talk back to your boss because you have all these debts you need to pay, right? So it's like it puts you in a place of slavery, kind of, to your debts. It's like it's better to have no debts and feel that freedom, right? And not get consumed by what society is trying to brainwash us in doing, and spending on this, spending on cars, spending on this, overspending. That's what it is. It's like we're being bombarded by so many different things. Like, we need to be centered, and we can't start getting distracted, you know.
That was good. I wish we would have talked about that at the beginning.
Yeah.
That was powerful. Debt is death.
And the bar
It
is
is.
servitude.
It is. It is. You got anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, you're right, because if you think about debt, and this comes from, like you said earlier, it's emotions, right? Because we go out there and we spend on things that we are emotionally tied to, and it could be vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a huge home that you know you really can't afford, but you purchase it anyway. And it could be clothes, it could be food, it could be anything, like Milad said, that you are emotionally tied to, really.
Right.
So yeah, it's pretty powerful.
And so now, before we end the video, your target audience is males. I would like for you to give some words of advice or encouragement for a male that may be in the process of going through a divorce, because I know you have a lot of wisdom that you can share.
Oh, absolutely. Number one thing I would say is get rid of all your distractions, get rid of all your vices, get rid of anybody that is not going to add value to your life. And number two thing is you need to get advice immediately, advice from people who've gone through your mess and came out as winners, okay? Came out as winners, and not your friend who's giving you advice, but his relationship is completely messed up. No, you need to speak to a man that's gone through a divorce, that healed himself, and is in such a great position after his divorce. That's the individual you need to get advice from, right? Get advice from people that you want your life to be, and who came over the same struggles that you're going through right now. Don't just listen to everybody, because everybody has
Yes.
Sure,
you know, and it's dangerous to us, you know, especially when you're going through divorce. Everyone's coming at you left, right. You should do this, you should do that. No, you need to be centered, and you need to start. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy, but help is key. And honestly, like going through a therapist, going through this, in my opinion, these things might help, but it's better to deal with somebody who's gone through that mess, through that exact mess that you.
I agree. And now, can you tell the audience how they can find you?
Absolutely. So the best way to find me is through Instagram. So my handle is alpha_fitness dad. So alpha_fitness dad. You could contact me there, message me there, and any questions, I'd be happy to share it with, answer any questions.
Okay, well, from the Money Talk,
Yeah,
we would personally like to say thank you so much for spending time with us.
yes, thank you.
This was very impactful, and I hope and pray that it will be a blessing to our listeners.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoyed our conversation.
Yes, and if the listeners who are listening, if you like our content, please like, share, and subscribe for more content coming your way. And so until next time on the Money Talk, we thank you for watching.